Welcome, thanks very much. You're getting a fair doses of Credit Suisse this morning. You're going to be all Credit Suissed out by lunch, so you thoroughly deserve it. I'm going to talk about 20 minutes. I hope it's more entertaining than the title suggests. I put in a couple of videos, so you don't need to listen to me for all the time. Those of you who had the stamina to stay until the end yesterday know who I am. A quick overview of Credit Suisse. You met Sarah this morning. Sarah is working in a global organization that is looking at our various divisions and helping with her knowledge on AI and machine learning. I'm from the Swiss Universal Bank, which is effectively the Swiss unit. We do have a retail bank in Switzerland, we have a corporate bank in Switzerland, and of course we do investment banking in Switzerland. But outside of Switzerland, we don't have any retail banking or corporate banking presence. So hopefully you find this quite interesting, what we've done in order to transfer to what is specific to your marketplace. Credit Suisse has traditionally been a fairly innovative organization. It started a long time ago. We actually had a drive-in bank, which sounds quite funny now, in '62, driving into the center of Zurich and doing your banking from your car. Not a very long-lived business model, but worthwhile putting on a slide. And then we did a couple of fairly cool things in the late 90s. I don't know how long you've been in the industry. That's when I started. And some of the fund lab activities and the online trading with U-Trade, those were some of the fairly innovative solutions on the web at the time. And we had a bit of a hiatus over the last couple of years, and most recently with the event of digitization. We actually did start again thinking about what can we do in making financial products more fun and more entertaining to engage our clients. And Credit Suisse is an organization which looks very monolithic and fairly organized, but it is actually a very entrepreneurial company which has its ups and downsides, but it allows for people who have a good idea to actually try to explore that idea. And so what we've done is we've agreed with a couple of fairly senior people to change our approach a bit when we looked at private banking and how we actually address the changes in the marketplace. And you've seen many slides like this from various consultants of your choice. I just put this on to just remind us on how some of this works and actually to agree on how we can actually do this. And to be honest and serious about it. And so we agreed with the senior stakeholders that we take this journey, that we believe some of the consulting slides and actually give it a go. And the experiences have been quite interesting, and the feedback that we got most specifically from our clients actually proved the point that there's some logic to this, and there's a lot of value that you can actually generate from this. So it's your usual ideas about defining what you want to do, talking to clients, prototyping it, trying it out, not spending too much money initially until you get sensible feedback, you justify your business case. And then once you actually implement something, you actually do take the stamina to look at your product and manage the product. And that's a topic that I'm going to come to a bit later on in a bit more detail. So we looked at a couple of client needs, and some of them are not necessarily close to retail banking, and I'm still aware of the title of the conference, but I'd just like to show them anyway because I think there's a lot of areas where these experiences do overlap. And in my mind, this is also a bit of a capability play. So if you have a great capability in your corporate bank, there's a lot of crossover with your other segments. And if you look at it in a siloed way, you lose a lot of value and you actually invest a lot of money in vain. So the three areas that we looked at is specifically in our corporate bank. We recognize that our corporate banking clients use our systems a lot. We offer many systems to them, and that's not very entertaining for them. So we thought about how can we align and bring all these services together in a sensible approach so that a corporate client can actually live and work with these systems during his business day. And for a corporate client, it's a very different experience. We look at our online banking and mobile banking, and we check on stuff, and we're interested in how our portfolio is doing. And maybe we do a payment, but then we put it away again, and we live our normal lives. Many of our corporate clients actually use our systems the whole day. They come in the morning, they log in, they do cash management, they do foreign exchange management, they do payments, they check how their pension fund is doing, they trade. So for them, it's like an SAP, like an ERP system, something they use during the day. So from an experience perspective, it's very different to a quick experience that you have on your mobile phone. And that's something which we needed to keep in mind. Then the second topic, which is a thorn in every bank's side, is the whole process of onboarding clients, onboarding and maintaining client relationships, especially given the changing regulatory environment. So that's a topic where we said we need to break this. We need to look at this process and we need to re-engineer it and we need to make it fun. Would be probably too strong a word. No one wakes up in the morning and decides, I want to have the great experience of opening a bank account. But still, to have it as painless as possible. And the third is something which is close to every parent's heart. I've got 2 children. The oldest one is 5 now. And I'm personally struggling with trying to educate my son in terms of financial literacy, explain why do we have coins and bills and why can I swipe on my phone and get stuff, and how does this all work? And that seemed to be a problem that many parents have, and also from a bank's perspective, we felt is something we wanted to address. So we really thought hard about how can we help our clients to facilitate this process and what product ideas can we generate. So starting with the first one, the digital banking for corporates, obviously there were a couple of features that our clients wanted. So we didn't go away and said, what can we build and what is cheap to build? But we went to talk to clients. We had a lot of engagement. And there were effectively 3 main topics that we felt were close to their hearts. The first one is really this sort of portal idea to get all of these systems into a single experience, to give them an overview. And then effectively, we picked a couple of use cases where they felt they were really tedious. One was leasing. Many organizations obviously lease stuff. And the process of leasing a good is very, very annoying. If you lease a car, you can probably understand why that is. And finally, multi-banking is an interesting topic because you obviously have a challenge of aggregating all your cash positions if you bank with various banks. And many of the Swiss national, international companies, like Nestle and Novartis, they have obviously God knows how many bank accounts with different banks globally. And to aggregate these cash positions and get a good view on where their portfolio stands, ideally in real time, is very, very key to them. So we built this experience, and great, so far so good, but how did we do it? And I think this is really where we changed the model and where we had a bit of an organizational change being driven out of the technology change, because we effectively did take a lot of time in talking to clients. And it wasn't like your average accountant. We really tried to go to the C-level of these clients to get their air cover in making sure that we spoke to the right people, that we created the efficiencies that they were looking for, and that we also created the experience so that they had very high productivity in their employees' work with our systems. And we had many, many client events. We spoke to CFOs, to CIOs, and actually many of these guys were very open to this, and this was very surprising. But they really took a lot of time out. They actually came to user labs. We involved them in the screen designs, in the wireframes, and we got some very, very valid feedback. And the other positive thing from this was obviously that they felt ownership. It wasn't really our solution, it to part became their solution, which is why, using this approach, we didn't really have any adoption issues. Because many of the people were actually asking us, when can we have it, rather than us trying to push the product. Yeah? The downside or the danger in all of this is obviously that you obviously get competing opinions. Yeah? And since these are all clients, it's quite tricky in some instances to moderate this discussion. It's a bit like if you're a software vendor and you're discussing with your clients the scope of the next release. You always have scope for like 3 major changes, and you may have 10 changes that the clients want. So somehow you have to have a process on how you prioritize, and everyone's still leaving the table as a friend. And that's something which we found, especially in this group, quite challenging, but we managed to find a compromise. And we got some quotes from the guys, and they're very happy to promote the solutions that we build. And obviously the other upside is you go into this ongoing dialogue. You get the feedback, you get the improvements, and you get the justification in your organization to continue to invest into this product, which is not driven by a single product manager, but it's truly driven by the client. So this is one example where even in the corporate space, you have a very good opportunity. And many of the use cases that we looked at and discussed actually do have do make sense for private clients, for retail clients, for affluent clients. So many of the capabilities that we built in this product, we could reuse in other products. And the second topic that I want to address is the online onboarding, and I'm going to start with a quick video. So I think you caught the idea behind it. The challenge really was to open an account, enable the opening of an account in a paperless fashion in 15 minutes, not having to use more than a mobile phone with a camera and a passport. That's all you need. And what we tried to achieve is to really make this experience seamless and to make it as much fun as you possibly could. The interesting piece is that the evolution of the experience has been quite a challenge. 15 minutes is not long. The identification process works via a video call to a call center, and that process takes 5 to 6 minutes. It's something which we found to be working quite well. The clients gave us very positive feedback on it. The major driver for this obviously was a change in regulation in Switzerland, where the local regulator was allowing the identification in a sort of non-physical way, so a video identification was sufficient. And luckily enough, many other regulators globally have now chosen to accept this. Even so, if you want a part of some of your fortune and open an account in Switzerland, you can even open an account here in the UK. We have now 35 countries which actually do allow opening accounts using this level of identification in Switzerland. And this has been very, very important for us as a hub for banking for offshore clients who use Switzerland as a place to park some of their assets. The identification, as I said, is done via video chat with Swisscom. Switzerland is a small country. It still entertains sort of 3.5 national languages, which means you need to have a couple of multi-language people, and you need to do this 7 times 24. So we decided to partner because we weren't sure about the uptake. Swisscom entertains these video call centers anyway, so that's something which really helped us to get this project done. And the e-signature is something which we also discussed a long time with our compliance friends and the regulator, but to them it's not necessary that someone signs physically a piece of paper to declare their consent. Putting in a TAN into the mobile phone was actually equally good. So this is something which really helped this experience. And again, we did spend a lot of time with clients. We did usability labs. We started with the friends and family phase with pilot users. So we try to do this pretty much to the book. And what we've also done is, and you know this from other experiences, we included now beta functionality. So clients can choose to use this functionality as a beta user and we collect feedback, and we also now use this to prioritize requirements. So we ask the user base to actually prioritize the next feature that they want and they think is sensible in this experience. Why this project is pretty important for us and from an organizational perspective is this experience forced us to look at the whole flow front to back and to really dig very deep into the processing. The major benefit of this exercise is actually not the online onboarding, but we use the same technology and the same principle in the branch onboarding. So when people come into a branch, they don't fill in 20 pieces of paper anymore. They sit with the RM, the relationship manager, or the cash desk clerk with an iPad. They enter the data, and actually it's like a 20-minute exercise, and all the information is captured. It's a seamless experience, and the client gets an account number. So it's not like in the old days where you had like paper shuffling and data not being filled in, and FATCA identification missing, or a name misspelled, and all this nonsense that happened. All of that has actually completely ceased to exist, and now nearly 90% of our onboardings are done through this channel. And now the next step is obviously to look at all the downstream processing, where you can then do all the product openings electronically, and then effectively give the client this feel of a basket, like in Amazon, where you effectively choose your products, you put them in your basket, you check out, and that's it. And it's not like a 20-day paper process behind this, it's really real time. Finally, kids banking. It's something which is very close to our heart. We are a Swiss-based bank. The population in the Western world is aging, and that's a problem we have in Switzerland as well, and I think it's true for many countries. Our average clients are between 60 and 70 years. It's a bit of a tricky thing because in many instances they have beneficial owners who actually manage their account, so the age of the customer is not necessarily always a good indication of how you should create an experience. You actually need to understand who uses the systems you build. But anyway, if you look at the distribution of the population, we were seriously underrepresented in the age bracket between 0 and 12. And that is not a great concern if you think in a couple of years, but if you look at decades, you get it to an issue because obviously your clients die. And if you don't find new clients, it's a bit of a problem. So we decided to look at kids banking to try to understand how can we help parents and children in understanding financial literacy. And again, rather than me spending many words, I have another video to explain what we did and how we did it. Or maybe not.
This is Diggy Piggy, the digital money box from Credit Suisse. Diggy Piggy is a fun way for children to learn about cash and digital money. Here's how it works. With the Diggy Piggy Kids app, children can easily set their own personal saving goals and record and track their savings whenever they want. The accompanying Diggy Piggy Parents app also allows parents to keep track of all movements in and out of their children's accounts and money box. They can decide on their children's pocket money and transfer it directly online or pay it in cash. Chores and their associated rewards can also be entered in the app. This helps children to achieve their saving goals and gives them the sense that accomplishing their chores is bringing them closer to their saving goal. The associated Maestro card allows children to get little treats for themselves or withdraw a limited amount of cash from the ATM. Everything that children need to learn about money, including practical tips and educational games, can be found in Credit Suisse's Viva Kids banking package. Diggy Piggy is available in 4 fabulous colors and also functions as a nightlight and alarm clock to help children through the day. Would you like to know more about Diggy Piggy? Then visit us now at creditsuisse.com/VivaKids or call in to one of our branches.
So obviously this is one of the products where you can't approach this the traditional way by having your change group write specifications and then trying to figure out how you move on. It's very difficult to emulate what a 5-year-old wants as a grown-up. So we did a lot of work on this. This project has taken a couple of years to develop. We started with an initial prototype because we thought there needs to be a next generation of the coin box that all of us probably remember from our own childhood. So we started with a university in Lausanne to try to work on prototypes, and the very first prototype was effectively a glass box which had an old iPhone as a display, and some students tried to toy around with the idea of how you could actually build a money box that had some intelligence in it. And this process really took a lot of time. Then we moved to the design. How do you design this? How do you actually get into, we're not a product company, we're a services company. We do financial services, we're not building gadgets and products. So that was a lot of work, and again, it was something which we couldn't have done without engaging users, engaging parents, engaging children. So we ran many workshops with children. Luckily, many employees in Switzerland do have children in the right age. So we had great fun getting the children into workshop rooms and entertain us, and try to test with them what do they like, what facial expressions do they want. Some of my guys had to learn new programming languages to get 26 facial expressions into this device. Try to understand the technology behind running a little server in a box, how to update this little server when new updates have to be implemented. Try to build this ecosystem around the app, because obviously you don't want this connected to the internet. You don't want someone to spy on your children and hack into your Wi-Fi. And all of these considerations obviously took a lot of time and effort. And again, a good example from my perspective where with a traditional organizational approach of developing software and building products, you wouldn't have gotten anywhere. And here we again engaged the client, we engaged the children, and we worked with associations who have a strong opinion on how to teach children financial literacy and effectively build these products in the children's mindset. So what did we learn from this? Effectively, the idea of the minimum viable product. You've probably seen this slide, and it's again a bit of a double-edged sword. Imagine coming home from a long day and having your wife in a miserable mood, and you tell her, "Listen, honey, I'm going to cook you dinner," and guess what? It's a minimal viable product, i.e. the muesli that's left over from this morning. You won't get a lot of applause for that one. And it's very similar to walking into a boardroom telling people, guess what, we're going to deliver the minimal viable product. No board members jumping up and down on that great news. So really, it's one of these areas where you need to convince the senior guys that starting small is a good idea. And that's been a journey that we've gone through over the last couple of years, where people initially were very skeptical if they didn't see a 3-year plan, which was fully funded and had a pyramid of about 200 people working on a project, to being persuaded to take a bit of money, take 5 guys, sit them in a room, work for 2 months, come back with a proposal, and then effectively decide based on that proposal and based on true client feedback, do we want to continue to do this? Do we want to continue to fund this? Where do we need to change direction? And that is, it takes a bit of a brave approach on a very senior level as well, because your commitments on delivering stuff are actually rather vague, and you actually take a risk here. But if you do, you actually build solutions, in my opinion, and that's what we've seen in the pickup of the solutions that I presented, that this is actually very useful. The next one is about how do you do this from a very practical perspective, and I don't want to really flog this agile horse to death, but that's something which really helped us in showing people that there is an industry practice that we can use, and we need to tweak it, and we need to be effectively changing stuff, but we can use it. We make conscious decisions. We had a lot of changes in the organization, and in my technology organization, a lot of change had to happen. We moved effectively back from this siloed approach of defining requirements, building software, testing, and deploying, to what we now call super devs, where we have small teams of very, very good people who actually do appreciate that they own a product. And they develop the product from the requirement to the production readiness. There's no tester behind you. There's no deployer behind you. You are the guy in control. And we built the framework around it so that we can actually get you to deploy into production. And if it doesn't work, it's your accountability. And that was a significant cultural change because, in financial services, in large banks, we went through 20 years of cutting things into little pieces and outsourced to various partners and tried to break up the value chain. And I think now it's the time to bring it together. And then finally, product management is something that I just wanted to raise some awareness here. And it's not the product management in the sense of product managing your bank product, but managing your sort of digital product. And this is something where traditionally I think banks haven't been super strong. I think consumer companies and device companies are doing a much better job. And it's not a skill that you can just learn. Yeah. So I think it needs, again, some bold recruiting and hiring, and we try to find people on the market who actually have experience in that space outside of financial services and take these experiences into financial services. Because in this fast-paced world we live in, experiences age, regulation is very, very, very short term, and you've got to really get your products under control, otherwise the usage is getting stale, and the cost of maintaining still is the same. So you've got to really understand what the product management implications are and get the people on the ground here. There's a bit more detail on the slide, but I think I'm running out of time. So with that, any questions?
Fantastic, thank you so much. Any questions?
Anyone brave enough to keep 150 people from lunch? Stefan, I knew that would happen.
Yes, you said that Agile is not the solution for everything, based on your experience. So in which cases did it work really good or is really necessary, but in which cases is it really not the right way to do it?
I mean, for us, it worked really well in this sort of interactions and experiences where you have close client contact. But we do have, you do have problems to solve on your legacy infrastructure, which are bound to a certain cycle where you actually do need to move 20, 30 systems in a specific way. And you can still work and apply agile concepts in building these individual changes. But if you want to bring, legacy systems to a certain release date altogether into production, I think, some sort of specification and getting back to a sort of waterfallish approach, we found quite helpful. And I think it needs some very skilled people to understand what are the aspects where we can really seriously apply agile and make good use of it, and where do we still need to consider the back-end implications, the regulatory implications, in order to make sure the whole thing comes together as a product at a launch date. And that's why I also believe personally that you still need a couple of good project managers who understand all of these dependencies and can actually give the senior management the confidence that the old world is under control, as well as the sort of new world, the agile world, is under control. And that's a journey that we've gone through over the last couple of years.